Hey, what's up, family? It's Mitch. If you're new to this channel, here we talk about creating a life, job, and impact that aligns with who you uniquely are, because you are awesome. And today I'm going through my top 5 learnings through COVID-19 and through 2020 so far. And it's not specifically about, COVID, but more how it's impacted people's lives and my habits and how things have gone throughout this. So let's jump in. So the first thing that I've learned is to just flow with the currents of life. I'm someone that really likes to plan and, work to create the things that I want in my life and create a life that I want. But sometimes things don't go as you were expecting. And I'm pretty sure no one expected this year to be as disruptive, as chaotic as it has been. Lives have been lost, jobs, businesses have been ruined. And, you can't predict everything. But the people that have thrived through all of this have been the people that have been able to say, okay, this isn't what I expected, and I don't really know what to do now, but what can I learn? What can I do right now that is going to support me? And how can I change my direction to thrive in this new world? And the people that haven't been able to, and I don't want to speak for everyone because there's so many different situations and circumstances throughout all of this, but if you were someone that was attached to how this year was supposed to go and not able to adjust and reframe and pivot and just flow with what was happening instead of against it, then you probably found it far more uncomfortable than the people that just, gave in to what was happening and accepted it and moved forward. An example from my life is this year I'd spent 6 months planning for how I was going to move to London. I was going to get a job. I was going to travel South America first for 2 months and then move over. And, that was going to be a massive thing for me. It was a real moving overseas, and it was kind of indefinite in some ways. And then 2 days before I got on my flight to South America, it got announced that it was a pandemic, and the reality started to hit of, okay, flights and borders are going to be shut down. There's going to be economic strife. There's going to be all these things. And I decided to not go on my trip anymore. And that was, not at all what I had planned for. But where I am today is actually, I wouldn't trade. If I had the two outcomes, I'm very happy with where I am now, because I was able to, be like, okay, this wasn't what I planned for. And I took a week to really come to terms with this new reality, and then just got to work on being like, okay, well then what's next? What am I doing? And I've ended up in a place where I'm actually super happy with where I'm at. And there's so much that would have happened this year that couldn't have happened if I went on this trip and moved overseas. And so being able to just be agile, not defeated, and not fight against the current of life has definitely supported me this year. And, although I feel like I'm on the right path, it has not at all been an easy year. It has been, particularly just being stuck in your house. I'm in Melbourne, so there's been lockdown for a long time, and it's really had an impact on how you live your life, and adjusting to that new way of life and staying motivated and staying healthy and mentally well throughout this has been a challenge. And so that kind of leads me to my next one, which is that your habits are so important. I already knew this, but it's really been just so obvious during this time, as some weeks, you're not accountable to anything. You don't have to go into work. You don't have to do virtually anything. And so it's really easy to let your diet slip. It's really easy to just sit on the couch and watch TV for a whole day. It's really easy to not exercise and just do the things that you know you should be doing and that you usually do and that support you in living a good life and a healthy life and that make you feel good, but they're easy to let slip away. And at times during this process, I definitely have. I think I've never eaten so much chocolate in my life. It's been ungodly. And 2 weeks ago, I watched the first episode of this like anime. It's called Hunter x Hunter. And then I just lost the whole week of it. I just watched every single episode in a week and was like, what are you doing? And so, it's really easy to let these things slip, particularly during this time. But when I have let those habits fall away and my diet and exercise and sticking to a work schedule, when those have fallen away, often what is filling those gaps is these instant gratification things. And over time, after a week, after 2 weeks, whatever, your mental state definitely starts to feel the effects of not being supported by your healthy habits and not being like meditating's actually been one that has stuck throughout this whole time. So I'm grateful for that because that has been able to create that mental space for everything else. But when you do give into those instant gratification outlets, like an element of that is important to relax and to, live a balanced life. But when you're constantly becoming out of balance with that over time, you definitely do start to feel the effects of that. And when you're cooped inside and don't have any social interactions, you can definitely start to get into just an unhealthy, unmotivated space. And so keeping those habits has been really important. I'd love to know that I'm not alone in some of these instant gratification outlets that I've given into. So I'd love to know below what has your vice been during this time? What has really got you through this? Has it been eating chocolate like me? Let me know and hit that subscribe while you're there. So the next learning is actually one that I'm quite surprised about, which is that I need less social interaction than I thought. Before this time, I would often feel like I needed to fill my time with social interaction, particularly on like a Saturday or a Friday night. And if I wasn't doing something, I felt like I was missing out, or I felt like I was not taking advantage of the night. And in this time, as those options have been taken away, I've found that the minimum amount of social interaction I need throughout a week is actually like relatively low. And Zoom has actually been way better at creating that social interaction that I need than I thought it would be, particularly if there's some sort of topic that you're talking about with someone over Zoom. I find Zoom chats can be a little bit weird, particularly in a group. If it's just a catch up, like being in person is much better for that. But one-on-one, or if there's a topic that you're all talking about, or it's a game that you're playing together. I know I've been interacting with a lot of like sharing circles and events online that are just bringing a collective of people together. And I've just felt like I felt sustained by that. I felt content. I didn't need to be around people, and even as an extrovert. And also those interactions are with people I want to actually have interactions with. I'm choosing to connect with these people instead of just randomly bumping into people. And so I've really respected those interactions and felt quite sustained through them. So number 4 is that perception shapes your world. And this is particularly relevant after talking about socializing, because with an inability to socialize, some of us have filled that gap with consuming content, whether that be watching the news to keep updated with what's going on in the world, particularly with so much going on in the world, or watching YouTube video podcasts around what's happening. And there has been a real difference in how people have seen what's going on at the moment, and that has had a real impact on how they operate inside that and their mental state inside of that belief system that they have. There's a YouTube channel called Rebel Wisdom, and they talk a lot about how a lot of our old structures for gaining information are crumbling and they're not trusted anymore, but we don't yet have new structures that are established and trusted and that we're moving towards. So there's a real splintering in where we're getting our information from, and that has, created a lot of different viewpoints, which is good in some ways and bad in some others. But due to that, there's been a real difference in how people are viewing this situation and operating inside it. It's been quite funny for me, being quite spiritual, seeing how some people at the moment are living in a very big fear mindset with really focusing on the virus, and that makes a lot of sense that they are. There's a virus and it's killing people and it has an effect. But then as part of the spiritual community, well, some of them are on the vibe that it's all a hoax and and we're not being told the full truth. And I'm not going to get into whether either of those camps is right or wrong, but just how those two camps have such a big change in how they show up in the world with those beliefs, how that affects how they then operate. And then again, in the spiritual side, you've got people that are talking about how we're moving into this new fifth dimension, and there's all these energetic shifts happening at the moment. And I honestly haven't looked into them enough, but they're very hopeful at the moment. They're like, this is the best thing ever. We're moving into this new way, and this is turmoil that's gonna it's necessary to send us into this new way of being. And all three of those, and there's way more viewpoints out there at the moment, but all three of those have a really big effect on how you show up and how you operate in the world. Me personally, I know that I have a tendency to get caught up in narratives, and so I actually made a decision at the start of all this to just completely stay uninformed for the most part. I've just kept my head out of everything because, I wanted to focus on certain things that I was doing, and I knew that I was never going to really find the answer, so I just kept my head way out of the wormhole. And that has allowed me to not really be too weighed down by anything that's going on. Obviously there is physical restrictions on me and what I can do, but I don't feel emotionally taxed by what's going on. And the final learning I had, ending on a positive note, is that I just have so much hope for the world and for people in how I've seen some people act during this time. There's been a lot of fear, there's been a lot of negativity, but on the other side, there's also been a lot of really awesome people putting their hand up, offering what they do for free, or offering to hold circles with people or support others in their community that might be struggling. And I just feel like I've seen so many people really share what they have to share during this time and come and support. And it just makes me hopeful going forward that there are just so many good people, and I just have a faith and a trust that everything's going to be all right, and that I might be eating those words in a couple months, but just that everything's going to be all right, and there's so much light and good energy in this world as well, and whatever we are faced with, that we will overcome it. So that's all my learnings from COVID and 2020 so far. By the way things are going, I'm sure there'll be far more hard lessons to learn by the end of the year. But let me know what are some of the things that you've taken away from this year in the comments below. Also hit that like, that'll really help me out, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'll link up one of my previous videos here, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, family.